and welcome to the second episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm Dr. Ashley Johnson, school social worker with Memphis-Shelby County Schools Mental Health Center. Today we're going to be talking about Mental Health Awareness Month upcoming in May. Today I'm joined by two students who are seniors, so we have to congratulate them. From Kingsbury High School, Miss Valera and Miss Nancy, and a special colleague of mine, Erin Harrington. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. So today we're just going to have just an open conversation on Mental Health Awareness Month and just what mental health means to you and the importance of it. So we'll just get right into the questions. So how do you perceive the state of mental health among students your age at school?
Well, in school, I see a lot of mental health, like you can see it a lot in the way they dress, the way they behave, even talk, and also in their grades, because I feel like mental health affects humans in different various ways, especially during school.
Right.
And you can see it if someone is going through like a wrong, harsh time or something by looking at their grades as well. Because sometimes some students don't have the enough motivation, they're not feeling well, and it reflects on their grades.
Okay. So, Erin, like as a clinician, how do you see, like with students, how do you see the signs, like when it comes to mental health?
So, some of the general signs that we might see are isolation, withdrawal. There might be an increase or decrease in sleeping, an increase or decrease in eating. In the classroom setting, it might look like apathy, not really interested, or someone's tired or even sleeping or have their head down in class. And sometimes it's classroom avoidance. So you might see a kid that might be skipping class and you think that they are just, having a ball, but actually they're avoiding because they have anxiety and or feeling like they might be judged in the classroom for maybe not keeping up or maybe not being maybe the head of the class or things of that nature. So additionally, let's see, we might have outbursts, irritation, mood swings, things of that nature.
And that kind of like goes back to Nancy's point as far as like with behaviors. So you're saying that, some students may be displaying behaviors a certain way because they're feeling some type of like upset, stressed, angry, right? So you kind of see some of that. And you said like the way that they dress. Can you kind of give an example? So even parents can kind of become a little aware of seeing that their child's like behavior or dress may change. And coming from a student that may be a little bit more proactive in addressing some issues.
Yes. Well, sometimes, what I have seen around school and also like, in TV shows and stuff about high schools, sometimes some students are going through a really hard time and they're not thinking at the moment, at the process, and they're like, I want to cut my hair because I'm going through something, and they show up to school next day with their hair dyed and a different look. You don't even recognize them, and sometimes you go ask them like, what made you do this? What made you change yourself? And they're like, I just feel like it.
Right.
And behind those words, I just feel like it, they might be asking for help, but they don't know how to get that help, or they don't know what they're feeling, and they don't know how to acknowledge those feelings.
Or to communicate, right? Because I think for our age, if we cut our hair, that means that we're doing something a little different with. Okay, so how do we bring more awareness and prioritize the student mental health within the schools? Like maybe amongst your friends, you may be able to notice something, right? But how like school-wide or district-wide, what can we do like as adults to prioritize mental health and with students?
Something we could do in the schools to, help with the students in the mental health is that we could like focus more in their grades to see how the students are doing. Teachers could have a one-on-one conversation with those students to see if they can, talk about how they're feeling, why their grades are that way. And sometimes students teachers get information out of the students, and some teachers are able to help their students when they're going through mental problems and stuff. And I feel like schools should also have like more therapists or people that are there like every day of the week, because I have noticed that some schools have therapists, but they only come like Monday through Wednesday or only on Thursdays.
Okay.
And I feel like there should be one in every school available every day throughout the whole week, because every day people go through problems. Every day people have different emotions, and sometimes they just need someone trustworthy to talk to and help them.
I like that point. Like, what were you gonna say? Like,
No, I'm really just impressed that your response, because that's exactly what we need, is to have individuals available, because we are dealing with the issues every single day of the week, all day. It's important that we do have a staff there. But some of the things that we look at, you talked about grades, and some of the time we think that the grades are just someone not trying. So asking the question a little bit further and seeing if there might be some other intervening variables that are contributing to it. So if you go to the teacher, or you go to your behavior interventionist, or you go to the reset room, and then asking the right questions, what's going on? Have you eaten today? Did you sleep last night? Is there some stress going on at home? And so just knowing where to go and the questions to ask when we're trying to get down to the bottom of it.
yes. So to, continue from that, in the school setting as a student, do you see that there's a disconnect with students and maybe adults of being able to go and talk about mental health or express, like, I'm feeling some type of way? So do you think a lot of that stems from trusting an adult, or what do you feel like there may be a barrier in that communication or that disconnect of really be able to provide support in the schools, whether it's from a trustworthy teacher, a principal, a school counselor? Like, what do you see that could be beneficial, kind of increase that relationship?
I feel like the main issue is that some teachers genuinely don't try to care enough for their students.
Okay.
Because I see some teachers that they just have certain moods. Like, you're a teacher, you're a grown up. We're all humans. We're all going through issues. But I feel like as an adult, they should reach out more to their students, and I say a positive mood, because there's some teachers that just talk to some students in a way that you really shouldn't be talking to a student.
Okay.
And some students are human, so we have feelings, and that could make a student like, oh, this was probably their chance to ask for help, and a teacher be like, oh, well, assignments are up, that's your fault for not coming to class. Instead of always telling the students it's their fault, maybe arranging something to help them. And I feel like also with the trust, some teachers don't give out that vibe you can trust them. And since they're adults, I feel like we should be able to trust them, and they should sit out a more positive mood and vibe towards the students, so the students can feel more more confident and trustworthy.
But I appreciate that answer. And I say that because sometimes I find it difficult for students at times to really be transparent when they why there may be an issue, why they want to talk to a teacher or talk to a counselor. And sometimes it can be an adult's disposition of how we may present ourselves and things like that. So I appreciate you being transparent about that, because I think some students may be a little hesitant to really share, but I think you're giving us information and our viewers information as well, on how to build about that. Like when we come back in August, right? Yes. About how to really set the tone for our students coming to this space, so they can feel that they can trust people to talk to if they're feeling down or they didn't get an assignment completed, that teacher feels comfortable, be like, well, tell me what's going on, or how can I help you? So I hopefully that people who are watching can really pull from what you just said and being transparent and authentic in that, as far as saying we need you all to understand where we're coming from too as students. Like adults have issues, we have issues, but we need to be able to still be respectful in a sense, but also be supportive of each other. So I appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. Is there anything you want to say?
I don't know, because when growing up, I had a therapist at school. I didn't get along with her because she would tell anything, like, to my mom, any problems I had. And I'm not going to say I didn't like it that much, because it's my problems and I don't want to share it to other people. And the teachers, I think, like, the atmosphere, because, like, if you go to a classroom and it's all gloomy and everything, you don't want to do nothing.
Right.
You don't want to do work or anything.
So having somebody like kind of like uplift you in that moment, still make you feel like you're welcome, to make you feel like, you may be feeling some type of way, maybe feeling down, but we can work on something, kind of vitalize your energy, revitalize your commitment to the class, and make you feel supported in that. And I understand that there may be something that you want to talk about and it be confidential, right? So I think that also goes back to the point of trusting adults. But I think sometimes adults are just like, if there are things that are being said that may be harmful, that we do kind of have to share with adults, right? There is that aspect of it. But I do think that you even being transparent in that moment, like just sometimes just allow what I talk about with someone just be between us, and then help me find a positive way to talk about that with my parent to help build that relationship and communication. So I think that's a good thing. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that was perfect. And how that works in the school setting, we want to definitely create an environment, like you said, when you walk into a classroom, you want it to be welcoming, warm, energetic. So it kind of calls for you to get involved or even be comfortable to speak. When we're talking about those things and we talk about confidentiality and things of that nature, it is imperative that staff understand that. And I commend you for saying that because we do have an environment where there might be some boundary issues, and communicating with a counselor might want to communicate with a teacher, and a teacher to the parent, and a parent, however that might work. And at the same time, we might lose the students' trust in the middle of all that. So we want to make sure, like in our department at the Mental Health Center, when we communicate with students that are 16 or older, we're able to communicate with students. They can sign their own consent forms and things of that nature. And at that point, when the student signs, it is our responsibility to maintain that confidentiality. And you do deserve that. Each of you, with all the issues that you might come to us with, aside from what Dr. Johnson stated as far as anything that makes you unsafe or someone's trying to harm you or things of that nature. So I think that's about all.
Right. So when we look at mental health, right, and we're coming up with Mental Health Awareness Month in May. So what are some things that you all see that could, in the schools, that just not around mental health, but just overall wellness in the schools? What do you think that could be done to promote wellness in the schools? Does that kind of make sense, like what I'm asking?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing that we could do to promote mental health around school is posters, because the students are always walking in the hallways, the teachers, everybody's
They're not
in the
supposed
hallways.
to be, yes.
And people are always looking in the lockers and the walls, or wandering off, walking, and I feel like posters with vibrant colors, bold words that show mental health,
Right.
like little definitions or just little small quotes about mental health. I feel like that's good because people read it, and sometimes even inspirational quotes with the mental health could like brighten up someone's day.
Right.
To like let them know they're not alone. Everybody goes through mental health problems, and it's normal. Some people don't like to see as a normal thing, but it's actually normal. We're humans. We're humans.
Okay, I like that. So having positive affirmations, right, around the school. And to your point of where you're saying like we're all humans and we all go through mental health. So there's a stigma around mental health. So even with students, there may be a stigma. So how do you see, even though you all are graduating, right, in a few weeks, how do you see like for kids coming up behind you, lower classmen, as far as kind of getting rid of that stigma or being, kind of just moving that out of the mind frame? What do you think that we can do as adults or the schools in general to kind of like eradicate the stigma of mental health?
I feel like maybe schools could like give out like monthly meetings about mental health to talk about it, because I feel like that's something that schools lack on of talking, because students do come there to learn, but also teachers are there to learn new things,
right?
And I feel like the monthly meetings, like someone talking about them, how they can help with the teachers and the students, would be great, because we learn new things, and that could be good information for them, for the environment and classrooms and students and grades and just overall for everybody in the school.
I like that idea, having monthly meetings. I think that would be something schools could potentially look at doing. I think that creates a space for students to come and talk about things, like a safe space. So whether it's certain like classes or in your home rooms or if the school counselors, I think it's just a good idea for that to be able to take place to help provide a safe space for students.
Absolutely.
You have anything?
You have so many great ideas.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think it definitely is important also for mental health clinicians in the building to come into the classrooms, maybe to lifetime wellness classes instead of it being, basketball for the day. Maybe it could be deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and things of that nature. So the time could be spent where it is a part of wellness, but teaching coping skills and how to identify warning signs and things of that nature. So that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, it is. And so, Aaron, like for you, since you're a clinician with the mental health center, so what are some resources that students can actually utilize to help prioritize their mental health? I'm building off of what you just said, but like specifically kind of just honing on some resources and things.
So if we're starting right there in the school, we want to start with the resources there, which include reset room, where I don't know if you will have all the schools have. We do. It's beautiful there. But having the opportunity to go somewhere and de-escalate. So in the room, in the building, there is a place like that. And then your behavior interventionist, if you're having kind of an issue that's not necessarily at a tier 3, which is more so intensive, you can go and talk to them and kind of hash things out. And then you do have the clinician that's in the building. In some cases, you said that are not there every day, but going in there and speaking through, maybe processing the situation, getting some feedback and things of that nature. But outside of that, you can use community resources. We can refer for those services if necessary. If it's outside of what we can offer, we can give you coping skills right there. If you need to just stop in and you need to, you're just having maybe just an imminent issue that needs to be addressed, we can give you coping skills. We can do journaling, we can process, but again, referring, making community connections with the Family Wellness Center. If you can't come to the school, maybe something after hours and things of that nature.
Yeah. So even like we've kind of directed this conversation as far as like within the school setting and things. And I know here recently we've had a lot of things kind of happen in the community in the city of Memphis and that impact students, impact high school students. So how do we get parents on board of understanding mental health? And because we are coming up on Mental Health Awareness Month, and to get that buy-in of, if you see your child going through something, or how to approach your child, how to really recognize some of the things. I know that you had mentioned earlier on about, maybe the way they're dressing or, shutting out and just really just staying to themselves. So how do we get the parent buy-in? What are some things that, with our viewers, watching and their parents, what are some things that we can say to them to encourage them to be like, become a little bit more aware of what's happening with their child?
One of the things I would say that I run into is there being kind of a disconnect about the parents just not knowing at all that their student is struggling with mental health issues. And so I would encourage parents to ask the hard questions.
Right.
And if they aren't comfortable asking those hard questions, to garner a support person, a family member, a friend, reach out to the school and ask those questions, because the children or students are in these homes every day and they're just like, oh, they just like being in their room. No, actually they're self-harming. Right. And they're isolating and they're withdrawing and they're sinking. And it touches everybody. Mental health is just like you stated. It could be any of us. And so talking about it, making sure that you read up about it. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your child. It just means that they might need some assistance at this point or this juncture in the journey.
Right. Okay. I like that. I think that's also a missing component too sometimes with the schools of having parents involved and building that connection of where it's the student, the parent, and the school. So I think once we kind of all get in the streamline of communication, I think we might see some improvements when it comes to supporting students in the academic settings. I think, you can't teach a child who's struggling. Right? They're disconnected from the academic aspect. And so I think that something that as a community, even within, we have the gym in Memphis-Shelby County Schools, which is the mental health center, right? That we're embedded in the school system to be able to provide that support and also connect to other resources to pull in to help support students and families. So I think we have that luxury here, but I think we just have to kind of also work together to make sure that we're providing that support, and parents know how to access this resource and the support. Any outgoing message or anything that you'd like to say to the viewers, especially some of your high school friends who are graduating when it comes to mental health? I mean, you all are preparing to graduate high school, possibly going to college, right? So how are you going to really factor in like balancing mental health and wellness, knowing that you're going to transition to college?
Well, for me, my family is not religious like that, but I do go to church, and I do believe in God and everything. So, like I said, everybody goes through mental health problems. So for me, when I'm going through like a problem or something, and I like to talk to God. I like to, I feel like that's a coping way for me. Like, God is there for everyone, and He got you there. He's gonna get you through it. So I feel like some people, for their mental health, they like to vent to God, and I feel like that's a good, healthy way to talk about your problems and hoping that everything's gonna get better.
And I appreciate that, because some kids your age don't want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you being transparent on what works for you. And I appreciate it. What about you? So what are you're graduating in a few weeks too?
Yeah. I think they shouldn't rush. They still have a lot of time in their life.
Okay.
And if they're ever struggling, probably like advise a friend. Sometimes they're there for you, or a family member, adults, or like if you're just by yourself and you don't have no one, like you go to college like away from home. Sometimes it's better to connect to God, like Nancy said.
Okay.
And just hope for the better.
Yeah. And also access the resources on college campuses. They do have, counseling centers there that if you do feel like you need to go talk to someone, because college is a different environment than high school, right? So managing stress and anxiety is something that we all have to learn, even as adults. So transitioning to college is something I would say and recommend that, familiarize yourself with the supports on college campuses. Any outgoing words?
Just for the families that are looking for services that might be wondering if they can afford the services here at Memphis-Shelby High School's Mental Health Center, the services are provided at no cost. And so you don't have to worry about your insurance and things of that nature. Just come or, reach out to someone at the school, and I'm sure that we will do our very best to,
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you all for participating, and that will be it for episode 2 of Let's Talk About It. Viewers, if you have any questions or comments, please leave one and then we'll talk about it. Thank you.